So the article I picked is titled Player-Character Relationship and Game Satisfaction in Narrative Game Focus on Player Experience of Character Switch in The Last of Us Part 2. So this study is authored by Valerie Erb, Sion Lee, and Young Yim Do, and was published in the Frontiers in Psychology journal within the Human Media Interaction section in September of 2021. It basically explores how players form connections with their in-game characters and how these relationships basically influence the overall game satisfaction. They also use The Last of Us Part 2 as the main case study, and where they basically drew their research from through like player interviews, and ultimately they identify 3 key factors that shape their experience that we'll go over more. And their findings basically provide insight into how narrative and design choices impact player engagement and emotional investment in games. So when it comes to The Last of Us Part 2, the authors chose this game because it was one of the most controversial player shifts. The study decided to dive into that and focus on basically players' attachment to characters, their willingness to accept perspective shift, and the agency loss, and how that shaped their overall game satisfaction. When it comes to the controversy, this stems from the fact that players are basically forced to switch from the perspective of Ellie, the main protagonist, who is seeking revenge, to Abby, the antagonist who killed Ellie's father figure, Joel. So this sudden shift kind of received polarizing reactions. Some players thinking it was a bold move that provided depth to the characters, while others found it basically manipulating and forced. Another big reason or negative or just a controversial reason in general was player agency, but in kind of a different form than what I'm used to seeing. So instead of like limited vision or limited controls, this was more so now that people were forced to almost emotionally invest in a character that they've been actively hating from the start. So after during the research and listening to the different interviews from people, they end up finding the 3 main factors that kind of shaped game satisfaction when it comes to this player character connection. So the themes were tolerance of forced character switch. So this was basically that players that were now forced to experience the same events but from Abby's perspective. Some of them resisted and found it frustrating and felt like the developers forced sympathy for Abby, while players who kind of embraced this switch saw it as, again, like a bold storytelling device that deepened their understanding of both sides. Another factor was flexibility of character attachment. For example, many players formed a deep bond with Joel in the first game, making them very emotionally invested in Ellie's revenge. So this had some players basically refused to accept Abby, feeling their connection to Joel and Ellie prevented them from sympathizing with her, while others did find themselves connecting with Abby after seeing her perspective, particularly through her relationship with other characters that finally got to showcase her humanity. Lastly was the willingness to adjust to character perception. So some players expected Joel, for instance, to remain cautious, but in part 2, he basically trusts strangers too quickly, leading to his death. So this dissatisfied some players that saw this as an out of character writing. And then there was multiple times this kind of instance happened, but this made the story feel, again, forced or inconsistent for those people, while players that were considered satisfied basically rationalized Joel's actions and interpret them as character growth, showing he became more trusting, after years of peace. So when it comes to justification of this, there was definitely many things to learn and take away from this article, which helped me be the reason I chose it, because it provides a lot of valuable insight into how players connect with their in-game characters and how different factors like attachment, agency, and perception influence that overall game satisfaction. So The Last of Us Part 2 specifically serves as a very compelling case study to me due to that controversial forced character switch. Anything that sparks strong reactions from players and can help highlight how design decisions should shape engagement. This study also examines the balance between, that player agency and storytelling, showing how limiting controls can enhance emotional depth, but also risk alienating players, making them feel possibly disconnected from the narrative. So just understanding these different dynamics can offer important lessons for game design, or even just crafting immersive and meaningful interactive experiences. So lastly, when it comes to the discussion questions, so question 1, what are some other key factors that shape a player's attachment to a character that weren't mentioned already? When it comes to question 2, how does a player's level of emotional investment in a character influence their overall enjoyment of a game? And question 3, how does character attachment vary across different genres such as RPGs, horror, open world games, or even cozy games?